want to start?
I'm good, man. Welcome to Prime Properties. I'm Michael Morris, sitting in, as always, with Lou Willard. Lou, how are you?
Doing great. A little cold. How are you?
Listen, I think we're all freezing cold today. And I'm doing my countdown like other people would do for their trips. I'm doing my countdown for when you leave because you said you had it. And you're going to go somewhere sunny and you're going to stick me with doing this show with some random person.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I'm not asking you to defend it. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, that was the plan.
And speaking of which, you did bring us a random person today. Stacey Plybon. Stacey, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Stacey, tell
Good.
people who you're with and what you do.
Sure. I'm a real estate agent here in Central Ohio for Emerge Real Estate. My home office is out of Circleville, but I utilize all offices. I take advantage of all of our locations around the city. And what is it? What else?
Nope, that's it. That's
Yeah,
pretty
that's
much
it.
You do real estate transaction. Just say that. I like how you used utilize, like instead of saying I just drive around, I utilize the road system.
I do. I utilize the road system and all of the offices that Emerge has available for clients and agents alike.
Are you counting those plugs, Lou? That's 2 Emerge plugs already.
Yeah,
and that's fine. She can do that all she likes. The reason we have you in, we needed, so last week Lou and I had Brian in, and we were kind of talking about the wholesale market and how the housing market's kind of bounced back in the last few years. But towards the tail end of the show, we got into a conversation about Zillow.
Yeah.
And Lou, kind of bring people in touch with what we were talking about, how Zillow, you were talking about how Zillow is not always updated, it's not always accurate, and if you're in wholesaling or you're buying or selling a home,
Yeah.
it's a detriment, right?
Yeah, because like last week, Brian's niche was marketing to direct sellers, without using the MLS, even though he's a licensed real estate agent. And the topic of Zillow came up, and Zillow, and as we'll talk here in a little bit about Redfin, Zillow is a company who says they can replace the real estate agent. And it's just not accurate. Their numbers aren't accurate. You can look up a house and it'll say it's for sale on Zillow. You pull it up on an actual MLS, which is current, and it will have closed 60 days ago. But Zillow will still have it as active. And so it's kind of misleading the consumer. I'm not sure if that's what they set out to do, which I'm sure it's probably not, because that's not a great business model.
Right.
But that turns out, if they're not members of these actual MLS boards like Stacey is, like Brian is, they don't have the current information because the MLS updates constantly. I used to have a real estate license. It's to the minute every day. These sites are not.
Well, let's talk about what the intent of Zillow and there's another one called Redfin. They're both based out of Seattle, but they're 10 and 12 years into this. We are seeing the difference, and Stacey, we talked about this off the microphone, that the difference is there's Realtor.com, and then there's Zillow, and then Redfin really hasn't touched the Columbus market at this point, but at some point I'm sure it's going to creep in.
Sure.
When you have these automated website systems, it's almost like Amazon, except the difference might be, like Lou said, they might be out of the product you're trying to buy and it's still listed as for sale. Touch on the fact of why you need a realtor versus just trusting a website.
Sure. So it's really filtered and secondhand, third-hand information that these sites are getting. And they are not, they don't, it seems as though generally they don't have, especially with Zillow, they don't have somebody who they pay that can handle maintaining their site and making sure it's updated information based off of sales. And, sometimes market houses go off the market temporarily, sometimes they close, and so forth. So Zillow doesn't seem to care or whatnot about having up-to-date information. Realtor.com is a little bit kinder to us agents in the sense that...
Is it kind of the seller as well, or just the agent?
So my understanding, Realtor.com does not have a service for sellers. It's really a general search engine, but of course they also have ways of making money off of us agents, but they are a little kinder in how they deal with us because they do need us. Their service that they offer the public really is a search engine for them to search for houses in whatever market they're looking into. But they work nicely with our boards as well as with the agents. We can advertise with them. They let us become referred agents and so forth. So it's a lot more accurate in the information that they have and consistent.
And it seems, Stace, that I know in the businesses I have, the consumers want to be in touch with somebody.
Yeah.
And you could correct me if I'm wrong, but Zillow doesn't have, if they sign up with Zillow, there's nobody the seller or buyer can call. And like they can call you, because I'm sure you get calls all hours of the morning, day and night, right?
Absolutely, I do.
So if Zillow's not providing that, they're just providing a automated system where you're going to talk to somebody in another country.
Yes.
That person doesn't know the market. They can't answer any of the questions.
That's right.
So I would think I'd rather get an agent who I have access to. I wouldn't think to call some of the hours that we take calls or some of the hours that, especially your guys' phone ring. I know if mine ringing at 9 o'clock at night, yours got to be ringing later than that.
Mine absolutely has ring
So
later.
that has to be a big downside to using something like Zillow, right?
Yeah, well, for their agent service,
Yeah.
absolutely. Hands down, you're not getting anybody that's going to talk with you about what you're actually looking for. They're not really going to be able to go and see the property with you and tell you
Or
what's
communicate
going
with your
on,
lender.
or even communicating with the lender. Those are all missed things, and it's put on the consumer. It's your job. Now you're the professional. Now you need to do the research.
Yeah.
Now you need to know what the timeline is and what needs to be given to your lender and the title company and so forth. You need to do that research on your own. So it's very self-serve, and that's scary when you're talking about the biggest investment of your life, most likely.
Yes.
So yeah, that's
But let's talk about how Zillow came to be. I mean, and this is not to pick, if somebody really loves Zillow and you're wearing a Zillow t-shirt, that's not picking on you. But the way it was explained to me by a realtor was for years a realtor would feed information and listings and pricing into Zillow so that it would pop up like a realtor.com would work. And then Zillow then comes along and says, well, we don't need the agents now. Basically, I gave you my playbook, and now you can run my plays. You don't have to even pay me for it, right? Is that the way that you guys see it? And this came from, I'll say, a bitter real estate agent who told me this. So
Yeah.
I could be wrong in hearing it the wrong way, but is that how it works?
the consensus, in my opinion, on agents and Zillow is it's the bane of our existence almost. They cause us a lot of pain, and they absolutely have attempted to cut us out at this point.
Well, when you say bane of your existence, what are they doing to make it harder for
Those
you?
zestimates are completely wrong.
I love that term. Say that again.
It's a zestimate.
Yeah.
That's a
It
Zillow
sounds
term.
delicious. I would eat that, to be honest.
He's hungry. Let's get some Grubhub. Another plug.
Plugging away. Yeah, so you get this zestimate, but again, based on what information is what I want to know.
That's right.
It's information that's been fed to them by a real estate group or property, and then how do they dictate what the market's getting for that, right? Lou, you said this before. If a house is going for 150, and then all of a sudden the economy dips, that zestimate will still say 150.
Yeah.
It's not reflective of the market.
And that's where it's off. And what they tried to do was they tried to lead the consumer to believe that, like, if you list a house, the typical listing fee is 6 to 7%. Am I right?
6. Yeah.
So they're trying to say, well, the seller's only going to pay 3. Well, that's just not true. And then what are you going to get for that 3%? So we talked about it as, like, even when the numbers went from 32,000 closings to 31,000. It's not the numbers. How many can you go get? So what are you going to get for your 3%? You're not going to get any day-to-day help. You're not going to save any money because you're going to do all the work on your own. I mean, that is a lot of work. If you're a full-time real estate agent, it's a lot of work. A lot of people think it's easy, so they want to go get a real estate license until they get a real estate license. And
Well,
then
everybody knows that they could show off what a house looks like, but do I know if there's water damage? Do I know if there's issues with the school system? Again, those are things that won't be I'm sure.
Yes.
I know Lou would be quite honest about his opinion on something, and I think Stacey would too. But
yeah,
if
just
I-
a little bit.
Yeah, if I'm going off a listing, I'm looking at it, and it's strictly price. It's square footage.
Sure.
Those things I can look at, but I don't know anything about the area. I don't know the schools. I don't know the
Like,
taxes.
for example, Zillow giving you a residential property disclosure.
Yeah.
I mean, are you getting one if you list with Zillow?
But tell people if they're listening why that's important.
Well, with a residential property disclosure, as a seller, you have to be honest about anything you know that's going on with the house. And Stacey could probably tell you more about it than I can. I haven't had a license in 6 or 7 years, but they have to be honest about if they know they had underground drain damage, for example. they have to list it. If they know that the basement's been flooded or they had a roof leak or something major like that, has to be in that RPD. If it's not, then you can go back on the seller and you can sue them, because stuff like that, home inspectors aren't going to find, because you're in the house for 2 or 3 hours and then you're gone.
Yeah.
So they can cover that stuff up, and you see that stuff happen all the time. But you're not going to get that from some computer system.
That's right.
You have real estate has to have at least for my money, it has to have a personal touch. I need to have somebody I can call and say, hey, I got this paperwork from the lender, or I talked to my inspector about this. What's your experience with this? What can we do what am I looking at? Because I don't know. I'm a first-time buyer.
I mean, we can talk about hand holding if you want, but really it's explaining the process. I'm going to tell you, we're going to consult, we're going to sit down, I'm going to listen to you and ask you questions about what your goals are, what your intentions are, what your lifestyle is like, what do you have children, what things like that, do you have children that you have to accommodate?
Or that you like.
Or that you even like.
Spend time with.
That's a legit question.
I mean,
it is. Listen, I've had some people's kids. I understand.
But, that, and then I'm going to explain to you the purpose here, or the process. So here's what we're going to do. We need to get a pre-approval, and then at that point you're going to put your offer in, and then at that point we have a timeline that we have to work within. You're going to get your home inspection if you choose to. There's other inspections that you can get as well, and these are safeguards. It's better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. And from there, do you have any requests that you want to make? We have a timeline in which to do that. And then we have to worry about the appraisal. We have to make sure the title company has all of your information, and we have to make sure that your lender has the contract and all of the information, the RPD, the LBP, yeah, you know me. That's a lead-based paint disclosure as well. So if the house is built earlier than 78, you have to have a lead-based paint. So these are an amazing amount of things, like so many moving parts that that online agent, that computer system is just not going to sit and explain it to you. They assume at that point that you are the professional, and in fact, you should be a professional if you are going to take on such a service. Because
you have to get continuing education. You have to be licensed to begin with.
Yeah.
This other way it's just point and click, right?
Yeah.
And the real estate purchase contract changes more frequently than people know.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you, Zillow, whatever they have as a purchase contract isn't the current contract, because I think it literally just changed.
It just changed.
Yeah, so I can't
it would
imagine.
be different by state, right? I mean,
And
every
they
state
are.
has
And
a
they
little
are.
bit.
Every state's different, so they're keeping up with how many every states they're in every time it changes. That's, I doubt it.
I doubt it.
So some of the general information, it allows people to get a good look at some properties because you can scroll through pictures. But when you want to get into the meat and potatoes and sign your name to something, I suggest you get some actual representation and use a real estate agent.
Real estate agents are your fiduciary, right? And that
I
know
say
that's
that
a big
all the
word.
time. I say fiduciary all
you?
the time. Yeah, it's very important to have one of those.
Okay. I don't know, but it's true, and your agent is working in your best interest and on your behalf. And we are the professionals, and we take care of things, and we take on things that you don't have to. It's a part of our service. And in Central Ohio, anyway, buyers, you don't have any out-of-pocket costs, generally speaking, for your buyer agent. So what are you complaining about? So really, we come in and we show houses and we talk to you and we do all of these things before anything is compensated our way. So we're in it to help. We have a service that we're offering. We're not selling you on anything. Sellers, if you think that $3,000, which is around maybe 1% of your sale price, is worth it, think again, because you could absolutely come up short as well. So
especially if the buyer is represented by an agent. Now you're a seller represented by a computer.
Right.
Yes.
Trying to debate with an actual real estate agent, it's going to be a lopsided debate.
It is.
But doesn't that
It
also
really
kind
is.
of take, the whole point of when you're buying a house is there's emotion involved in it. Stacey, you met a guy earlier, a friend of mine, Marty Reed from Frog Hauling, who you were on a show where he said he has no emotions. He's the Tin Man.
Yeah.
But he's the rare person that's buying a property and he wants to remodel it the way he wants it, and he has no attachment.
No
But when you are buying real estate, that's where you're thinking of raising your family or retiring. If I'm just looking online, I can't get a real feel for what this is, and that's what a real estate agent. You're supposed to point out the good and the bad, but overall, this is what your lifestyle is going to be, right?
Yeah, we have to point out those extra things that you're not really considering about. But furthermore, you get an assigned agent from these sites typically. So you get an assigned agent who's going to handle these contracts, and then you get a touring agent. And your touring agent is simply like, "What's up? Get in the house, take a look, tell your assigned agent what you think."
I'm sold
They're-
already.
they're-
Based on that,
I
I'm sold.
mean, they really just walk up. They're meant to open the door for you, and that's it. They're going to be pretty hands off. They're not your assigned agent, and they're literally being probably paid a lump sum to unlock that door, let you in, and you tour it, and you have your questions, and you look at things. When I walk through a house with a client, I'm pointing out, "Hey, this basement is a block basement with fresh paint."
Yeah.
I mean,
You give it the Fonzie at the end. You
I
give
do.
it the
I like it. I do. I dress accordingly, and I go into basements, and I walk around the house, and I've gone with Lou so many times, and I use Premier inspections a lot.
Yep.
And those guys are phenomenal. I love their report. They point everything out, and now I feel like I might ask Lou for a job. Actually, I feel like I can maybe become an inspector.
That's a different show. If
Okay.
you're looking for employment, that's a different
That is a different show. You guys have that here, but at the end of the day, we have those knowledges, as well as the typical to the area we talked about, dirt floors and basements.
Yep.
There's areas where you're like, okay, that's typical,
Yeah.
but we also know your loan type. So if you're FHA, maybe this house isn't the right one for you. Maybe we need to find something that's a little bit better.
And that's from an
VA.
inspection standpoint. FHA is going to require less things to be wrong with the house, or they won't give you a loan.
Yeah.
Or it has to be repaired before you get the loan.
Before you get the loan.
If you're conventional, that stuff really doesn't matter.
Doesn't it also have to do with, I know, I don't want to say people have preferred lenders, but when you're a real estate agent, you have your title companies that you're familiar with, your inspection people.
Mm-hmm.
Zillow probably funnels everything to one area, right? So if I'm negotiating with, I think the worst part would be I'm negotiating with a seller who has an agent with them, and I have the the court appointed person. I would think I'm not going to come out on top because, again, like you said, you're saving that $3,000 by using Zillow. You're going to get what you pay for, right?
Absolutely. you
Yeah.
do. And I don't even know about the title company that they're using. Most likely, it's going to be an out-of-state title company, and I've had one bad experience with that, and I'll never be fooled by that again. And from now on, my clients, I highly suggest we use an in-state title company, and using an out-of-state title company can be very scary because they may not be as equipped in public records around here.
Especially
as well.
with all the fraud going on.
And all the fraud, they could run right off with the money because typically then you'd have to wire your earnest money over, then you have to wire your purchase, and absolutely.
You're saying if
scary.
you use Zillow versus using somebody locally.
I would imagine that Zillow's going to have an out-of-state title company that is going to do the transaction, and then what I've experienced is, if you want to use your own, pardon me, as a buyer, then you take on that cost as well. So now you're paying to purchase a home, and you're paying also for all of the title searches, fees, and whatnot as well. And it's an out-of-state title company.
And that stuff is usually negotiated in, isn't it?
It is.
So yeah.
Yeah. And
If it's so, the hard part is all the marketing that goes behind it. I mean, you're going to see Zillow commercials. You're going to hear
they're
them on the radio.
fantastic at their marketing.
Right. So at the end of the
that.
day, it seems like there's more benefits to using it, but they're not really giving you the message. So
Oh,
you have
no.
to do your own research into it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I know that everybody has a bias, but can either of you think of an advantage of using Zillow? The way I would look at it is, at least I can get a comparable, this is what this is worth, right?
But that's not even always going to be accurate because when in a traditional sale, an agent is going to give you what's called a CMA, and it's within the last 6 months of identical homes. They may just give you one that's outdated, and the homes may not even be similar.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it can be a mess. But it's one of those things like, remember, blockchain came out. It was going to do away with the real estate agent and the title companies. So it may still be around a little bit, but these are the same thing. It's just it's a lot of white noise. you still have to have human interaction if you're going to be purchasing homes.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that's ever going to go away, especially if you're doing a good job.
The average person isn't versed in the specifics of the contract and transactions and the process, and that's okay. They don't need to be. But I think that you should be versed in the processes and in order to utilize. I think that the only way this would benefit you is if you maybe were a real estate agent at one point, or a title agent, or something. Maybe maybe you're an attorney.
That was the only thing I could think of is if you were an attorney, at least you could read through these contracts. But
yeah,
again, at the end of the day, you hire professionals. You have a lawyer, you have a doctor, you have a real estate agent, you have somebody that inspects your properties like Lou. I mean, that's a cheap plug.
Premier Property.
Everybody needs
Premier
a Lou.
property inspections.
Absolutely.
Got to get a home warranty on that house too.
There you go.
Home service plan file. Just got to call.
HSP is.
I'm glad you said that, because in a situation where you use Zillow or Redfin or whoever you use this online stuff, you would still need somebody to back what you're buying, right?
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, they're doing the transaction,
Yeah.
but they're not inspecting the home.
Yeah, I guarantee you that no one's going to remind that buyer to get a well and septic inspection.
Yeah.
I mean, we do it a lot of times at the home inspection. We'll get there and notice they have a well and septic, and I ask them, hey, have you scheduled your well and septic inspection yet? Some people, believe it or not, will say, no, I didn't know we had well and septic here. Well, that might be a different problem. But they do, or some people go, no, I never even thought about it. Well, that's pretty important, because that's an expensive miss if it's wrong.
But whose job is it to educate that person, that buyer?
I feel like it's between the real estate agent and a home inspector telling them what's going on in their house, because we'll list in the report what type of system you have, public or private. So when we list it as private, you have a well and septic system. So our guys are trained to ask them, to try to help them out and say, make sure you get that done. And we even have a couple guys that we use that will give their name out and say, if you want to, call one of them and they can come out and take care of it for you.
Yeah.
And it's not expensive. I mean, you're talking about maybe $130
Yep.
for both, combined. But if you're talking about if that septic is too small, $7,500, $10,000 to replace.
Every county dictates the price of that.
Yep.
And you have to, if you have to have it replaced, you'll have to get the latest and greatest code. And
Yep, everything got to be brought up to
It's got to
code.
be brought up to code,
And
and it's
Heaven forbid you have to redig a well. It's just do not just have, if you get well and septic, have it inspected. That's
Yes.
the best thing I can tell
Well,
you.
I'm glad you said that, because again, that was the answer I was looking for, is that you as a property inspector and you as an agent, you have to have relationships with people that you form you're going to miss stuff. But it's nice to have somebody to back you up, like, hey, here's my checklist of what you need to inform them about.
Yeah.
And again, you can't do that through an online portal.
That's exactly right. And I have a list. I've broken things down. HSP's on my list, as well as Premier, and the well and septic that you guys use a lot. I also have on my list, as well as basement or grading. I've got grading, radon, all of these. So you give a list, and you know the people that you've worked with in the past, and that's the ones that you want to continue to work with, or at least refer out. It's your client's job to choose. It's my job to give them a list of possibilities that, and refer those out. So I've worked with these folks. I trust them. I trust their processes. I know their experience. So here's a list. Anybody on this list, I'll give you 3 home inspectors. I'll give you 3 home warranties. I'll give you 3. So you make that choice. But I'm always going to let them know. I've had a lot of great experience with this company. I trust them. I like their report that they do, yada yada. And you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that from somebody else.
What I always like about before we do this show is when Lou and I are just sitting kind of in the green room waiting on people. And
I was waiting on you today.
Well, listen, I get here
All right.
fashionably late. I just have to turn the microphones on. You guys do the talking. But when you guys were talking shop, and to hear that there is, again, every business kind of has this like high school effect to it. Everybody knows the main players.
Yeah.
But Lou said something where he knows somebody's going to miss this step, right? It's kind of like when you're playing cards with somebody and your partner, and you're like, I know you're going to throw it at the wrong time. And he brought it up, and you said you had the same experience. It's kind of cool to see that you guys, you know the names, you know the players, and that's why you need an agent and you need somebody on the back end doing inspections.
Yeah.
But you're all working together for the consumer. I mean, at the end of the day, your job is not complete unless you've made somebody happy.
Well, absolutely, and that's something that I remember being really nervous about entering into the industry, because you hear all of these things, and I've worked in sales before, and I've seen some sales agents and how intense it can get. Real estate agents, we do work together. We have a commonality here. We each have clients. One wants to sell, one wants to buy, and it is our duty to do the best we can in their interest, but also to make it happen. We're the bus drivers, and they tell us where to go, and it's our job to get them where they want to go. So we do work together, and we have to make it work out. No matter what.
So to summarize for the week, because we're out of time, you're saying Zillow, use that 100%. I'm totally kidding. You should. I wish people could see the look you're giving me on the radio. Like, Lou knew it was a joke, and I think you were going to scratch my eyes out.
I was like, what? No, that's contrary. No, Zillow, I don't know really why you would use it, even to search homes. I feel like it's very inaccurate. So I would say no go on the Zillow. I refer my clients to other sites to do.
But you start with referring to yourself. Hey, you should give yourself a plug before we go. If somebody wants to talk to Stacey Plybon, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, Facebook, Central Ohio Homes and Lifestyle. And you can also hit me at staceyplybon.e-merge.com, 614-778-4269. 614-778-4269.
See how she tried to take your time, Lou. Lou, tell people how they get a hold of you.
Salute Willard at Premier Property Inspections, 614-638-2435, or info@premierpropertyinspections.org. Website is premierpropertyinspections.org. Then you have Home Service Plan of Ohio, 614-626-3984 is the home warranty company, or info@myhomeserviceplan for the email, and myhomeserviceplan for the website.
And don't forget .org. All right, that's going to be it for Prime Properties this week, and we will see you next weekend.